Hi, my name is Dominic Javier and I work for NelsonHall. Let me tell you a few words about NelsonHall. We're an IT service and business process services research and advisory firm, and we do work on quite a number of topics, but one of our major topics is to actually look at the service offerings and to understand in quite a number of details and granularity what those offerings are, how they differentiate, and how we can advise them for our clients. As part of NelsonHall, I look into IT services. I'm actually head of research for IT services, but one of our major areas of work in the past 6 to 7 years has been software testing. And actually quite a lot of has happened in software testing in the past year, so that's quite a good area to understand. Mahindra has asked me to share a few thoughts about software testing, and also from a functional and in more detail from a non-functional performance engineering type of activities. So let me share a few thoughts, and hopefully that would be of interest to you. What we've seen in functional testing, really, starting by functional testing, is quite a number of changes. First of all, the offerings becoming much more comprehensive. And 10 years ago you would have manual or automated testing. Now those days you got quite a number of offerings, shift left, QA services. I'll get back on that one very quickly soon. But also the emergence of IPs and automation accelerators, and quite of nothing. So the offerings, the breadth and the depth of those offerings is much wider than 5 to 10 years ago. Second of all, we've seen an inflation in the number of people involved in software testing. So it's been quite good because there's much more work on testing and on QA services. So that means the quality of software is going up. So that's quite good. But at the same time, we've seen this inflation of people is raising quite a number of concerns in terms of training, in terms of costs, and so forth. So a next step in the strategy of the vendors and the adoption by clients has been to look into IPs and accelerators. And clearly, there's been expanding from using software tools, software products from the means IPMs and HPs of the world, from test execution into other areas, whether in support services of testing or it's earlier in the life cycle. So you got a lot of different software packages, software products you can find in the market, and that's I've got 2 comments for that actually. That's wonderful on one side because you've got much more automation outside of execution to a lot of different offerings. So that's wonderful. You get more. You get to automate more, I should say. On the other side, the sort of challenge really is then you need expertise for a lot of different tools that are different, that are sometimes are not compatible. So we get back into the world of complexity and into the world of expertise. Why am I saying this long sentence? It's because the best offerings those days have been about integrating those tools, trying to create a meta tool, an integrated tool that would cover quite a number of areas and expand from testing on the execution side into shift left and shift right, and therefore reduce the human labor intensity, but also try to reduce the level of dependency on expertise on a number of software products that are in the market. And clearly we've seen this in 2 DevOps, so that's wonderful. So this long introduction on functional testing, because we've seen that happening to some extent in performance and testing, and performance engineering, I should say, in those days. So we've seen the service offerings in performance testing actually expanding very much into performance engineering, and that's both from a shift left, from a QA perspective. I mentioned that in functional testing, we've seen that happening in terms of test process improvement. That's very traditional, but also trying to having best practices and so forth. We've seen that happening in performance engineering. So introducing performance engineering and testing earlier in the life cycle of the project, and therefore trying to so mirror the approach we've had in functional testing. And certainly we're seeing this happening as well in security testing and security engineering, as so I should say. So on the one side, that's wonderful, because then you're sort of introducing those concepts earlier in the life cycle of the project, and therefore clients are more aware, and they can, if they wish, take all those considerations of engineering and security into account, and therefore reduce the failure risks at the end of the project, of the development cycle. So we think this is wonderful. So the service offerings within performance engineering are expanding on shift left, I've just mentioned this, but they're also expanding on the right side. And we've seen quite a number of frameworks, shift left, but also into other areas. I can think here of service virtualization, and now rings a bell from what Tech Mahindra has been doing. So Tech Mahindra, as I know, has been expanding from the service virtualization activities that are usually found in functional testing, and they've done it for performance testing. And this is quite innovative. 5 to 10 years ago, we would never have seen this kind of breadth and broadness of offerings in performance testing and engineering going to service virtualization. So that's quite new. Another area that we're looking into and witnessing and understanding in performance engineering testing clearly has been the integration of those meta tools and of those software products we're finding in the market, those niche solutions we're finding in the market. As I mentioned, that has been very much true in functional testing, integration of those tools that have a different scope and functionality, and trying to lesser that dependency on the expertise on a number of small point solution tools. Now, in performance testing, that's true as well. The challenge has been less in the past. Performance testing is very much about using very specialized tools. So that's wonderful on the one side, because it already fairly automated. On the other side, you find this common challenge of finding the right people, the right expertise for those tools. So it's much more automated than functional testing. It's less human being dependent, but you still have that challenge of expertise. And back to what I'm saying then, we've seen firms like Tech Mahindra trying to create meta tools, trying to integrate those point solutions with their own IPs and accelerators, and therefore trying to use a larger tool and that sort of brings a more standard type of IPs, a more standard meta tool that also lessens the dependency on those point solution tools for which the expertise is hard to find in the market. Anyway, long sentence to say that we've seen that happening. In the case of Tech Mahindra, they've done that in DevOps, which is again very interesting, because we see a lot of DevOps activity from a functional perspective, but much lesser from a performance engineering and testing perspective. And this is sort of a summary of what we're seeing in performance testing and performance engineering, really. So if I should say, in few words, expansion offerings, shift left also in performance testing and engineering, but also shift right and bringing those meta tools to existence. There still is a lot of work to be done in performance engineering testing, but we think Tech Mahindra as one of the best offerings currently in the market, and we probably should congratulate for this. That's all I had to say. Hope you found it interesting, and I'll be happy to respond to questions if you're interested.